Hey guys, how's it going? OSCO here, back with another video. Sorry I haven't been uploading for a while. I've just had some uni submissions to submit, and I've had a bunch of other like life-related stuff go on recently, so it's been a little bit stressful. But I'm really excited to announce the first episode of the podcast today, and today we're talking to Hebbe, and basically he just goes through all of his techniques of how he came up as an artist, a few production techniques, and little bits of like industry insights. So in this video there's only there's a snippet of this podcast. The whole uncut version will be up on my Patreon channel if you want to dive deep into his specific techniques of like how to master, and some other little more synth bits, of walkthrough of his studio and things like that. That'll all be up on my Patreon channel. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this video, guys, and you get something from it. Let's just start this off with how you doing, man?
I'm doing really well, I guess, because I'm in the studio all day and that's what I like to do. So I'm
Nice.
fine with it, basically.
Cool. So I've been doing like a little bit of research into like you and like your early releases. Was your first release with Version Collective?
Yeah, I was working with a new label. I think I helped start it up a bit because I was new to the music scene. I wanted to have like a place, where I can connect with other producers, and through it, I've met so many great producers like Mr. K, for example, and was Delic one as well, and so I guess being my first release wasn't my favorite release, and sometimes I say to people, you should wait until you're totally happy with it, but it's just how it went, and I guess people liked it still, so it's good.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the largest releases on that page, I think, to this date. So people have gone back and checked it out. Like so, yeah. Basically, how did you get into producing or just music in general? Like, what sort of brought you into being like, I want to sort of discover the idea of like making music for myself?
I think I was 16 years old, and I bought my first guitar, and I started playing guitar a lot because I wanted to be maybe I wanted to be kind of a rock star or something, like every 16-year-old wants to be. And I wanted to play in bands. I wanted to play sick guitar solos and that kind of stuff. So, but I became pretty good at playing guitar after 3 years, and then I thought like I can actually record this. So I bought this recorder, which is like an analog digital recorder, like a field recorder. I didn't know about FL Studio at that time, so I thought like, I have to record it on this thing, and then what to do with it, I tried to find out, and I found out, well, there's DAWs, you don't even need this thing. So I spent a lot of money on those recording devices, and eventually I could actually buy like an external audio or an audio card and record it through that. So I got into FL Studio, and I really loved Moby. I still do, and I think that has been a big inspiration for how I started for sure, because I wanted to make this guitar into like, I guess, like more of a lounge music kind of stuff, which I really loved. And and I guess FL Studio then became like a place for me where I could experiment with my guitar and record it and do crazy effects with it. And then, of course, when I was like 18 or 17 years old, I got into electronic music because that's a cool thing, dubstep, Skrillex, and everyone was listening, and that's cool. And now I was just kind of picking up on it, and I found this CD. I think it was called This is Dubstep 2012 or 2013.
Yeah, I remember.
One of those. And you probably know it. I think loads of people. It was there, like, because I knew the music on there, like the Skrillex and stuff. I think there was some big tunes on there that everyone knew. And then I got into the deeper stuff, and I heard like Koki stuff.
And Benga,
like, is this is a sound as well. And I was taken like into this world of like actually very different vibes, but it really resonated with me.
Yeah.
And then I just started in the FL Studio, just watching tutorials and stuff. And I was like, I want to be this. I want to do this. This is my new favorite thing. And like anything 100%. I do, I become obsessed with it. So that's what I did for at least 5 years straight. Yeah. Until I had my first release. I guess like for 2 years I was just making music, and then Persian Collective, like you said.
Yeah, cool, man. That's sick. So, but like going back to the 5 years where you were producing music before you released anything, is that right? So,
I think like 3 or 2 years before I released anything. Yeah.
So within those 2 years, because like, you know, that's quite a short, like quite a small learning bracket from going from like, you know, opening FL Studio to getting a release, like 2 to 3 years. Like I know a lot of people that have been doing it a lot longer. What sort of like fast tracked your learning? What helped you really take things like seriously and start looking in the right places for certain tips and techniques to achieve what you've got today?
I think definitely putting a lot of time in it and just making music is how you learn, because every time you start a new tune and you do the things you already know, right? You start putting down the drums and doing the reverb thing. And then you find you kind of hit a wall and it's like, I don't know how to do this thing. And then you go further into it, and I was trying to find the tutorials on YouTube, or I bought a lot of computer music magazines.
Yeah.
And although they were more of like, how do I say, more like a fun thing to read, I didn't never really do the tutorials or anything. I just liked reading them, and it just made me like, oh, these are artists that use this gear, and I was trying to find these plugins and stuff. So yeah, hard to say how you can get better quickly. I think loads of people have a different learning curve, and more people learn faster right now because there's way more information. But on the other hand, some people have more time, and I think time is the biggest factor in learning something new, whatever it is. I don't think it's definitely, you may have some talent for it maybe, but I think most of it is just get down to it and just do work. That's how I think that you should do it.
Yeah, I think a bigger like proponent of what a lot of people, you know, like, a lot of people might take for granted is like not everyone can be a sick producer, in the sense like you really do have to have an ear for it. It takes a while to develop your mixing skills and stuff like that, but you normally know when you're like in early days that you can create something that's cool and it's like, you know, stands out to you, and you know, you sort of get a like kick of inspiration, like I could do this, but it's going to take a lot of time for me to get to where I want to be. So
yeah, I think if you set your goals, I set my goals and I set them way in the future. I think they are a must. Like knowing like I love this producer, if I can make this kind of beat, I am where I want to be, and then you can go on from there and get to a new level. For me, it was having a release within 10 years. I like this label. It was a Dutch label called Subway Music, and they recently quit. But I always wanted to have a release, and I told myself in, I think, 2012, I want to have a release on this label within 10 years. And then I guess it happened in 2015. Yeah. So I set my goals way in the future. And maybe it's too long, but I was, of course, a bit insecure. I thought I would not be able to get a release. I didn't know how easy it was. Like basically it's pretty easy. And I think that's also a problem, because people then release music that I guess they won't be really proud of later on, or they don't want to have their name attached to it. And that way loads of people also start fresh with a new name.
Yeah. I think it's important to keep the same name, even if you do change sounds. Like if it's early days and you haven't got a lot of followers, it's not too bad. But it's important to stick with the same alias, because as soon as you start fresh with a new one, I think you sort of like wipe the whole you start looking to change your sound, and you start changing like the way you produce and the tips you've brought up over time, and it's important to just pursue and keep working and build rather than starting fresh too many times.
Right. Yeah. I guess people start fresh because it's like a new step when you move to a different place. It's just like a new beginning, and you can show yourself in a different light instead of your old like garbage, as you can call it sometimes, or you just say, "Oh, this is the next chapter as well." But I stuck with the name because I like the name, so I don't want to get rid of it.
It's cool. So like, what sort of, so it means to have, right, in Dutch. So
yeah, actually, it means it basically means to have, yeah. But the reason I kind of chose it was because it was a unique name and people could make puns of it, like jokes. And in that way, I think people remembered my name easily, especially in the Netherlands.
Right.
And it was a short and easy name, just like Hebbe, which is, I don't know how to call it in English, but
catchy.
It's catchy, I guess. But it's also the meaning behind it is that I wanted to have everything. Like I wanted to have everything for myself. So in Dutch you call it hebberig. I don't know if there is a word in English for it, but
selfish maybe, or not so much.
I wouldn't say really selfish, but maybe in that direction, I guess. But the thing is, I've grown out of it mostly. So now I love sharing things with people, and like I think it made me a better person just thinking about the name. Like I don't want to be like that, but it's just a name that I still have as a reminder. Is don't be too selfish, I guess.
Yeah. Cool. So I know that I was speaking to some of the people on my Discord channel, and they wanted to know just because they're all right at the beginning, like they haven't got any followers or they haven't got a release yet, or maybe they might have one on a small channel. It's so for the people that are still looking for, I guess, information and stuff. Would you recommend? Because I know we spoke about this before, but just for the recording purpose, like, would you recommend putting out music, like, whilst you're still, quote unquote, in the learning process?
Yeah, it's hard to say when you are. I think you're always in a learning progress, of course, but when are you good enough? I think comparing yourself is important. That's how I did it as well. I kind of ranked myself among the best. Like, I'm not saying like I'm the best, but saying like which level am I among the best? Like, am I way down? Am I kind of like near them? Do I sound my production? Do they sound kind of similar to what they can do? And if I felt like, okay, I'm kind of in the ballpark there, I feel like I have something new to offer as well, I think I can release my music. And it's something you have to decide for yourself, but you should definitely be critical and don't release for the sake of releasing, because you want to have something out that people like instantly, and if they see it, they want to hear more. And if you feel that's your tune, because that's definitely personal, I can't tell you what the timing is you should be releasing. But if you feel like you got something fresh and it's good and you compare it to other people, and I think some people say like you should never compare yourself to others because it's the creative domain and everyone has their own opinions. That's true, but maybe in the beginning it's good to have some sort of direction and know where you are. Then later on, when you know your worth, you can just say like I can do whatever I want. And that's basically how I feel right now. I feel like I can make any kind of music I want, and I'm doing that because I don't have to kind of prove myself anymore. I think I've lost that, and that's what loads of beginning producers kind of have, like, I need to prove myself. And I think that's definitely a motivator for sure, which is, I think, it's pretty good.
Cool. Now there's some good info in there.
I'm not always creative, and at the moment I'm learning a new DAW. I'm learning Ableton, and I really love it. But I'm basically not making music. I'm just trying things, and then once I'm really creative, I know how to do those. You know, I know my way around the DAW.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you don't have any inspiration, just keep learning, and then you'll get it. You get it once again.
Yeah. So I've got a quick question, because you're moving from FL to Ableton.
Yeah.
I've got some friends that we talk about production all the time. We're making tunes all the time. They're thinking of going from Ableton back to FL purely because of the patcher. If you're not aware of what the patcher is, for the people that are listening and don't use FL, the patcher is basically a audio routing software that you can drop in VSTs and patch the audio to go wherever you want, and you can create really complex effects chains that have some really useful patching capabilities. So within Ableton, there is a workaround. You can use audio effects racks and process things like that, but it's not super visual, and you can't rearrange the chain very easily. Do you miss it?
Well, I guess I started missing it after a year maybe, but at the moment, comparing my workflow in FL Studio to comparing what I'm doing now in Ableton is working out better for me, and I love FL Studio. I've been using it for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's like second nature for me. I know all my way around. I know every little inch of the program, and now Ableton is also sparking some really new creativity in me. So I think there is no DAW that's perfect for me, but you got to find the one that's most suiting your workflow at that point, because it might change over the years and I might move to something different, whatever is around then. But at the moment, I have these. I can show you actually.
Yeah.
So this is like a soft tube mixer with EQ section and stuff, and it doesn't work with FL Studio. So that's why I already bought into the system, and not being able to work with it in FL Studio is just like a pain in the ass, really. My workflow is so much better right now. And Patcher, I think you can do the same in Ableton, right, with groups. I haven't tried it yet on how easy it is, but it is possible, right?
Yeah. You've like you said, I think you've seen some of my videos. Some of them in there, I'm using the audio effects racks and the instrument racks, the groups within the sense where I can like create multiple layers and then process them individually and do unique things like that. So, but it's not like, because the patcher was almost designed to do that specific thing, whereas I don't think instrument racks and stuff and the way that I use them is supposed to be used like that. So I think it's more so used for like layering two different sounds and like playing them together using the same MIDI, or like maybe processing having one group for one reverb and a group for another reverb, so you can swap between them and you do creative stuff like that. But actually like banding out specific parts of the same preset and then like processing the mids and lows separately, I don't think that was specifically designed by Ableton to be used like that. But it's cool that they've left it open-ended that you can do that within there. And I
think you have exactly the same possibilities, but it's not as easy to do them.
Yeah, maybe. Exactly. Yeah, 100%. Mm-hmm. So I've got some questions about workflow, because transfer, like, obviously when you change doors, there's a totally different workflow, even because I'm playing about with Bitwig at the minute, and even like they're made by the same core developers, the same people that worked on Ableton earlier days are the same people that are working on Bitwig, and there's still some inherent workflow specific changes that I'm having to come up with. Is there anything that you really struggled with that you loved doing in FL that you do all the time? Was easily transferable to Ableton and stuff that wasn't?
I think what I've created in FL Studio is a recording button. So I had this. I can actually show you this better.
Yeah.
While it's loading, I'll explain. So in FL Studio, you can create your own devices kind of with knobs, and you can make them visual however you want them to be. So what I find in my production is that a lot of times when you're playing with sounds or you're playing with randomizers or whatever, then, for example, a reverb tail with a distortion on the end and it's doing some crazy stuff, and it doesn't do it the same way again. So in that case, I always had a record button ready for me to record whatever was going through. So for the people in the FL Studio, I can show you what I did. And it definitely was one of the best things for my workflow, because I saw people, they were working in Logic and it was trying to record something is so difficult. It was just, you have to route this to this channel and then you have to click record and then it will record in a different channel. But I said, I just want to have it recorded in a recording device. So I have Edison, and I've specifically bought Edison so I can use it in Ableton as well.
Yeah, I've just done the same as well. Edison's great.
Yeah, Edison is amazing. And so this is Edison. This is a recording program in FL Studio. And I made this record button right here. And if I would push it, then you see it arms Edison. Yeah. So I linked this to the record button. Also, what I did is I put it on the, how do you call it? The current channel. This means that whatever channel you select will be the channel that will be recorded. So if it's on a master, it will record the whole master. And if it's on, like I say, a kick or whatever, it will record only the kick or only the reverbs. So in that case, you have a lot of flexibility in what you want to record, what you don't want to record, by just simply selecting a channel and pressing the record button. And that's something I'm still missing in Ableton. But it's not, I haven't found it to be a deal breaker or anything.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. So before you started releasing music, did you already have the space that you're working in now?
I think I've had this since 2015. Yeah, since my first release. But I've been making music before that at my parents' house, right? Because I was just in my room making music there. But then I moved to university, and then I also kind of missed making music, so I rented out the studio, and I still have it. So that's when I really started to get serious, because then I felt like, oh, I have my own studio, so now you better make some damn good music, you know, to make, you know, to show that you're not just messing around there. Yeah. So yeah.
I'm in the process now of organizing my first studio. And like, I've been doing this for a little while now, but I want to get serious with it as well. And I'm looking to get my first set of, like, you know, serious like monitors and stuff like that. So for someone that's, you know, thinking about taking it seriously, like, how beneficial has having your own space away from like the bedroom setup, or away, you know, away, like having a dedicated creative space, how beneficial has that been to your sound, would you say?
I wouldn't even be able to make the music whenever I wanted to make, and without this place, because it's basically a place that can be 24/7, and I like to work at night, and sometimes I like to put things loud so I can feel the music. And it wouldn't be possible, you know, if I would be at a, you know, at a room and then people around me are sleeping, or it doesn't work like that. And I wouldn't be able to use on headphones. Maybe I could, but I haven't never done it. I probably would miss the sub, feeling the music.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to.
Cool. Well, I think that's got a lot of people like enough to think about those specific things. Now, basically what I'm going to do from now is cut the video here, and that's going to go up on YouTube. But I've got some people on the Discord server that just want like an extra few specific questions. Are you all right to answer them?
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. Let me just get it up real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. Real quick as well, actually. You said that you've never, like, when it comes to like making music for a label, like normally the labels will reach out to you. You don't go reaching out to labels. But how important is it for you to when a label does reach out to you to make a sound that they're going to like, because you were talking about this in a really specific way the other day, and I thought it was really insightful. And I think whilst I'm getting these questions up, it'd be just a good thing for you to hit on again.
Yeah. So for me, I always knew that if you want to release on a label, then you have to have the same kind of sound, probably, right? Unless it's a label that explores the whole, all the sounds in the world, but there's not many of them, and there's not many of them that are successful. So if you go to article music, let's say, or system music or whatever, and they ask you for a release, or they like one of your tunes, and then you think like, okay, I have to make a tune that kind of fits on the EP as well, or fits the sound. Because when I send a tune to a label, I almost instantly know they're gonna like it. They might not be releasing it, but they will like it, and they have me on their radar. Mm-hmm. So I make sure that what I send fits on the label. So I kind of imagine my release being among the other releases, and it's like, does it fit? Does it not fit?
Yeah.
So I kind of trying to do the work that they have to do, fishing through tunes that fit their label. And I just present them what they want. And I guess that's important for you as a beginning producer. If you have a goal of releasing on a certain label, you can have an experimental sound. You can do whatever you want, but there is a certain limit for that label. If they don't like it, it's too experimental or it doesn't fit what they wanna bring, they're not gonna get a release. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. So you gotta cater to the labels. It's kind of, unless you don't want to release on labels, you can do whatever you want. But if you want to release on labels, then I guess you got to cater to them.
Yeah, it's super important to please a label and give them the sound that they want, because they're doing you such a favor in return of like putting you out in front of their audience that they've spent a while cultivating, and you basically want a share of that. So if you've got to do some work on your end to have them provide that service to you, I guess. And it's also just good to work with other people.
I definitely always see it as a 50-50 exchange. Mm-hmm. Like they provide me with the audience and the reach and stuff, and I provide them with the good music, because labels can't do without music. They most label owners, they are producers themselves, but they need other people on the label as well. So they need the producers, and we need each other, basically. Mm-hmm. And I guess nowadays, when you're a bigger artist, you don't need the labels as much. You could do it yourself because you already have the audience. But if you really want to put all the work into promoting and stuff, most people don't really like that. So it's, in that case, for me, a label fits well, because for my personal music, I just want to make the music and then leave it to them to really promote it as much. Of course, I will promote it as well, but leave it to them to come up with a strategy and stuff.
Yeah, it's a totally different job at that point, being a promoter and like being a label owner. That is a full-time job in itself, and as everyone knows who makes music, making music is a full-time job, more so than most jobs, because of the amount of time required to put into it. So I've just got the questions up here. Thanks for that, by the way. That was really insightful. So I've got a question from Deep Dark Dub, who says, how do you find your ideas for your tracks, and what motivates your decision-making process on the direction that you take your tunes? So how do you get your ideas, basically, and what gets you through a project?
Getting my ideas can come from a lot of different places. Can be from watching a movie, can be from hearing a tune on Spotify, just a totally different tune, not in the genre I'm producing in. But a lot of times I hear a tune by a producer I really love. So it could be, I think I've been inspired by Gonska and Komodo, and then listening to the tune and then kind of feeling like I want to be able to do this, and then you're trying to recreate everything, like the sounds that they make. And then you come up with your own thing, and then it's a different tune. So it's kind of like I either have two kind of ways I'm being motivated. In the past, now it's different. Now it's way more about me loving to make music. But it used to be just like I cannot do this, and I want to be able to do this, so I start working on it, and I make sure I can do it as well as they can, or I can do this better. So it's either one of those was the reason why I was making music. I love making music as well, but I mean, it's the reason why I started to get better and better. And now it's more like I have an idea in my head. I wanna express like a vibe, like a feeling I have, and for me that's much less to cater to an audience than it used to be. But the creativity comes from new plugins or random stuff, like doing some things I would never do before, like having like I told you about the reverb on the sub bass, and then everyone told you shouldn't do that, and then I just like, why not, let's do it. And then I came with a tune that I thought really was exactly what I wanted to have. So doing some stuff out of the ordinary that you normally don't do can give you a lot of inspiration. Making sounds with synthesizers, you can sometimes come up with crazy things, which samples can inspire you as well, just going through samples. Lots of times, Spotify, I type in a random word. So whatever I'm thinking of, I type in Spotify and just go through the random tunes that have like 1,000 plays or something. And that can inspire me. I can hear one sound in it and just like, boom, I got it. This is something I can work with. And then I can build a whole tune of it. Just one sound. And I usually record that and use that as a sample, for example. Yeah. So those are different things, of course. I really like the workflow I have right now. It's all digital, but it's analog control. So it's a MIDI controller. So it still feels like analog, and it has still how do you say this? Still have the benefits of digital. So I can recall instantly and that kind of stuff. 100%. I would hate to have to recall a whole desk with like a 32 channels every time I want to try a new mix, because sometimes I'm working on 5 different mixes every day,
What's his favorite way about going for a dark mid-range bass? So I'm guessing, I don't know, it's there's so many different ways you can go for a dark mid-range bass. But
it's very broad.
If you could go into that, like, I don't know how I'd go about describing it, but
I would usually start off with a sine square, massive. So basically a deep, like a sub with some harmonics on it, and then I would put it through some more distortion, some filtering, some reverbs. I like spring reverbs on the basses, and then I would play in some melodies and kind of hope I find something good. But it's very broad. Like, I have many different ways to make basses. It could be Mess, it could be Serum, could be just a very basic sine wave that I start messing with, and then splitting it into sub and into higher frequencies. So that's how I usually process my bass lines. Always one sub part and one bass part. So when I put some crazy like chorus or whatever or distortion on the bass, it doesn't affect the low end. The low end's still clean. That's key for me. Keep the low end clean.
Okay, and I've got one last question from my buddy Jack. He says that your drums are super clean. You've got really nice drums. They're punchy. Drum processing is extremely important, because you hear a lot of people out there that are sort of like, they've kind of cracked how to do basses and they've got their sound design down to a good enough level where it's sort of up to scratch, but then you notice that their drums are just lacking in power and presence. How do you go about achieving a good quality mix and power behind your drums?
Usually I find the right sound for my drums, so I really take a long time to find the right kick that really, I don't just put any kick down. I like my kicks to be kind of dark and more focused in the bottom, because for me that gives a lot of flow. And if you have loads of high end in the kick, it kind of takes away the flow for me. It kind of becomes like, But with this boomy kick kind of rolls. So I think you find that in any of my tunes that the kick is not that big. They're kind of low end focused. They're not really present. The snares on the other end are usually punchy, snappy, and I do this with saturation. I do this with a tiny bit of reverb and some transient designer. So the transient designer gives it the kind of the click, so make it pop through the mix. Also, sidechaining some sounds to from your drums. So let's say you have your synths or your percussion. I always want my snares to sound the same. So whenever a snare hits, I want to have the percussion duck. That's most of the time.
Yeah.
And that way they always come through clean. I know in drum and bass they cut away everything, so they sidechain a snare to everything because the tunes have to be so loud. You need to have the space. You need to have like the full spectrum to make the snare sound the same the whole time. These are
snares go quite low as well. Yeah. So if you had to say someone was within the first year of producing, just to wrap this all up, what would be the first bit of advice to them when they're getting comfortable with music, but they don't really know what the next step should be? What would your words of advice be?
Got to think about that, because I don't want to give them the wrong advice.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You want to ruin their prospects.
Yeah,
I think it's wildly different for every producer how they come to their success. Definitely put some goals down, man. Write some goals down. I think I've personally had them in my mind all the time. I knew what I wanted. I didn't have to write them down. Just know what you want to. Where do you want to stand? Do you want to play at a festival? Do you want to play at a certain club? Do you want to release on a certain label? Have that as your goal, and then just keep working towards it, and you will reach it. I think. Yeah, I don't think anyone who really puts his mind to something couldn't do that thing.
Yeah.
Because maybe that's just because I've experienced it this way, but it might take you longer than me, or maybe you're quicker than me. It doesn't matter. You just have to set your goals, and then you know where you are. You know, like, am I close? Compare yourself to where other producers are. Another thing I did a lot was just like when you start playing guitar, you start playing someone else's tunes, right? Or you start playing the Beatles or whatever, some popular tunes, because you know they're good and people love them. In that way, if you do the same with your music production, it isn't any different. If you can recreate a certain tune, then you have a certain skill and ability that you can actually use to make your own music. So, and you also learn in the process how to make those sounds. So that's basically the best thing you can do, is just pick some tunes that you think are reachable. You think they are tunes that could be able to produce, and then try to recreate them. You don't have to exactly recreate them, but at least just find like, oh, how did he make this bass? And trying to use the same kind of structure, the song structure, which is very important. In the beginning, producers have a lot of struggle with this. Like, when should the drop come and when should this come? Just pick any big tune and just put it in your DAW and recreate it step by step. Just like the same kick pattern, the same risers, the same bass line, the same everything. And then you see like, oh, that's why it works. And that's how I do it. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's been good catching up. I've also got some plugins that I found the other day to send over to you. I think you'll find them really interesting. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. It's Unfiltered Audio. Have you heard of that one?
Oh, I have this. How do you say? A subscription to Plugin Alliance.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they're really sick. They're really sick.
Yeah, they're mental. Like I love those. Like the delay, the Sandman Pro, is nuts. Like I love that thing. Been playing with it recently.
I give producer classes as well, and I do mastering and mixing. So if you need to get your tunes masters, you can reach out to me. If you want to learn more about production, also I do this kind of online courses with just kind of like you do. And you're doing some really cool things, man, with sharing all the knowledge. I have Quiche and Looters coming out on a vinyl, probably this year if everything works out well. And some more music, all new music. So it's gonna be good.
Nice, man. That's sick. So yeah, send us over the links to whatever you've got. I'll put it in the description of the video. And yeah, it's been really cool catching up, man. Stay safe, and I'll make sure to add me on COD as well, because I'm well up for that. I'll play a game or something.
Stay safe, and you just give me your username.
Yeah, we'll do. Nice one, man. Catch you in a bit. Have a good one. Thanks for your time. Peace.
Good day, man.